When I first saw this movie last year, I thought, Chatham's got to see this. Cape Cod's got to see this. This is an amazing New Hampshire film, but we have this here too. So we have this amazing group of 4 women up here, all of whom I can call my friends. I'm pretty excited about this. So first off, I'd love for you guys to briefly introduce yourself, your name and your current roles, and then share your connection to the water. What's your history to the working waterfront, and in what capacities?
So I guess I'm starting. Am I on?
You're starting.
Okay. My name is Renee Gagne, and currently I'm the Shellfish Constable for the town of Chatham. And I moved here in 1983 after graduating from the University of New Hampshire. And then I never left. So I was introduced to this unbelievable community of fishing people by answering an ad for scallop shuckers. And from then on, I was hooked. So I started shucking scallops and was introduced to everybody, and I begged and begged and begged to get on the back of a boat. And so I started off fishing on the back of a boat. I fished for approximately 8 or so years until we had such a bonanza of shellfish in Chatham that I jumped ship and started shellfishing, and then did that for the next 25 years until this job opened up. So that, in a nutshell, is my history. So I never looked back, and I just got sucked in. I mean, I was so amazed that you could come here and make a living off of natural resources. And it was the journey and the adventure, and never the money. Because it was never the money.
Am I on?
Yeah.
My name is Shireen Davis, and unlike Renee, I was born and raised here and sort of walked into the fishing industry by my family and my husband, Ernie. We owned and operated fish weirs in Nantucket Sound. I did some shell fishing with Ernie for a number of years until about 10 years ago, the idea of creating a seafood co-op and getting fair prices for fishermen, direct sales, keeping local fish in the community. Concept started to happen. My daughter Shannon, who is here in the audience as well, commercially fished with us and shellfished. I shellfished with Renee. We had some great times together. And so right now I am sales and marketing manager for the Chatham Harvesters Cooperative. I'm not sure if many of you, I think we have some fish share members in the audience. It's a direct to members opportunity for you to get truly local seafood that's landed on Cape Cod. And presently we're in the middle of our fish share program, fall drive, so if you're interested, there's some brochures outside. Anyway, so I serve on an executive committee for an organization called the Local Catch Network, which is a national organization, so I do get to engage with fishing people all over the country and in Canada, and lots of women, because there's a lot of members that are in Alaska, and they're independent fishing vessel operators and harvesters there. So that's me.
Is this on? Yeah, okay. Hi everybody, I'm Gabby Brott. I'm the Fisheries and Aquaculture Extension Specialist for New Hampshire Sea Grant and UNH Cooperative Extension. And I guess I'm more adjacent. I'm not technically on the water, but I did study. I'm a marine biologist. I studied baby squids at UNH for graduate school, and sort of never left New Hampshire, and did a whole bunch of different jobs after grad school, and kind of fell into the fishing industry. Really, it was just pure chance. My first sort of real job, I guess, after graduate school that wasn't a postdoc or whatever, and part-time, was working with our recreational fishing industry, and I was the only paid employee, but I was doing a lot of the support and admin work for them. And it was mostly guys working on with this organization. And then I was very lucky and got hired by Sea Grant shortly thereafter because that I had been working with this recreational association. And I think they took me on the boat once. So through Sea Grant, I've been working with our local fishing industry and direct marketing of seafood and gear and research and then our nascent aquaculture industry. So that's sort of how I'm involved, helping and supporting that industry, but also really it's all about relationships, working with fishermen and aquaculturists and really sort of one-on-ones and getting to know what they do and how they do it and why I keep doing it, because it's, you can see it, it's passion and it's great being on the boats with them and whenever I can get to it and so on. So that's
Hi everyone, my name is Calliope and I have a 5-acre oyster farm in Provincetown called Mermaid Menu, along with my husband Mike, who is a firefighter paramedic. And I work every tide. It's a 5-acre farm, so it's super big. We're right off a Long Point in the breakwater in Provincetown. If you're ever down there, if you're on Instagram, we're Mermaid Menu. One of my biggest interests is connecting people with their farmer. We can't sell directly to the public like you saw in the film, but we do a lot of work in Provincetown bringing people to meet the farmer. October 25th, I'm doing a Meet the Farmer in Provincetown at the canteen. I'm bringing 7 other oyster farmers along with me, and it's a pay what you can. So we're doing a lot of seafood bounty from the pier, the McMillan Pier, so lobsters, Jonah crab, all the different seafoods that come in on the pier, and it's gonna be pay what you can at the canteen from 11 to 3. So if you are interested and you wanna come down or up, I'm not sure where we are. I should know. Yeah, so I've been on the water. I grew up on Cape Cod Bay. I often just wear my bathing suit to work. I love people wearing waders and stuff like that, but I often wear my bathing suit. I'm not that salty, I suppose, maybe one of these days. And I do it all year round. I take a month off to travel in March, but I'm out there. My face is so red, probably from February on the Cape on the water. I've wild harvested scallops in Falmouth. I've bull raked quahogs in Falmouth. But when I moved to Provincetown in 2017, when I got married to my husband Mike, I had the opportunity to open up a farm. He had a farm, and I saw all the things he was doing wrong, and I was like, I can do it better. Just kidding. He's my chief lifter of heavy things. Love that guy. So I opened up my farm. It took 3 years to get licensed, at the federal, state, and local level. So I've been farming for about 6 years now. And I really couldn't do it without the help of Barnstable County. Like I took the fundamentals of shellfish farming with Abigail Archer and Rachel Hutchinson and Josh Reitzma and some other folks. And I love that Cape Cod has a pathway to teach you how to do these things, so you don't have to figure it out by making all these like costly mistakes and whatnot, although I've made those. Ask me about my sea urchin project. Costly mistake. But I couldn't, again, have done the work that I'm doing now without the Barnstable County Marine Program. I'm forever grateful. So that's really important to me. And there's a lot of women aquaculturalists on the Cape. Everywhere I look, in every town, Brewster, all over the place, there's ladies on the water, which for me is really nice. I don't know how much of a difference it makes, but it's just nice to have that kind of I hate to use the word fraternity, but it's that. So anyway, come visit us.
I had a big list to pick from, and it was very, very difficult to kind of pare it down. So, I appreciate the New Hampshire perspective, but I had a lot of women who I got to pick from for this. So
you're lucky, because when we were doing it, we really had, that's it. We have maybe one more that it didn't work out, but that's it in New Hampshire. And it was hard. I was talking to people, and I was like, who else is actually on the water, not not behind the counter and processing and stuff. And we had, that was it. So, you know, that was one of the reasons we really wanted to make this film is we gotta put them up front.
The next question for the three of you who had, this is your first time, I'd love to get an initial reaction from you or what resonated with you with this film. Maybe a similarity or different from New Hampshire to what we have here in Barnstable County. And maybe we'll start with Gabby. What was the impetus behind this? What kind of kicked this idea off?
So it was actually COVID, and Jillian, full disclosure, she was my intern, and I actually learned a lot from her. I don't know how much she learned from me in the end, but that story she told about going to the seafood show, she had texted me afterwards, and she had said, you know, this is super annoying. I just came back from the Boston Seafood Show, nobody would talk to me, and you know, I'm young, I'm a woman, and they really wouldn't talk to me. And I started thinking about that because she was one of the first during shutdown to start doing direct to consumer and off the boat sales, you know, off the dock in Kittery. And I was talking to her and I said, anybody else doing it? She's like, no, it's just me. And then we start whenever we could, you know, with masks and driving around. I'm looking around to see if anybody else was doing it. And she was the only woman who was doing direct sales at the time. Everybody else, where some of the lobstermen started doing it, but the wives or daughters were, you know, bagging it up and so on and so forth. So I was like, it got me thinking, and I started to really look around. I was like, I don't see them, but you know they're here. And so that's sort of why I wanted this this out there. It's just really, really important, especially in New Hampshire. New Hampshire is just small and diverse. So our, you know, fishing industry and our aquaculture industry is very small anyhow, so we didn't have very many people to look for. But it was surprising how few women were there. So.
That resonated with me, and it was how much I missed being on the water. The photography was really beautiful, and how much I missed that sort of solitude that you feel in the independence. I didn't miss the bad days though, when they were hauling in the fish and it was pretty nasty. I don't think that was, you know, I never really liked those kind of days. But I think what really resonated with me is Jillian and my journey through trying to do what I've been doing for the last few years. I'm gonna say I've met Jillian before at the Maine Fishermen's Forum. We were on a panel together. One thing that I will say is when she went to the Boston Seafood Show, it wasn't just that she was a woman, it was because she was a small independent fishing company and didn't fit the mold. And the fact that she is breaking that mold really resonates with me because of the work that we're doing at the Harvesters is this very same thing, is to bring the fish back to the community, to tell the story of the fishermen and to find new opportunities for all the what's abundant and available. And with her work with the Jonah crabs, I think is really good. I got approached by a fisherman who wanted to do something like that. And you know, I'm really, really, really fascinated by how she's doing this so well. And she's got a lot of work, and she's awesome. Yeah, she is. So I think that's part for me was that she's one of my new heroes.
Yeah. Okay. First, that tuna fisherwoman was kick-ass. I've worked on a tuna fish boat before, and I never moved around a boat, and I don't know anybody else, any man who's moved around a boat like she did. I mean, that was just awesome to watch. I mean, and her enthusiasm, and all of the women's enthusiasm. And as Rachel said, we're actually kind of lucky here. There are a lot of women in this industry. And it really is inspiring to see young people, young women coming into this industry. I know Stephanie Sykes is in here, and I remember, and Shannon, I remember those girls when they were 7 years old, and to see them now, with these, great jobs in this industry, that to me is always something so great to see, is And if you're around long enough, you actually get to see it. So you get to see these young girls coming into this industry and kicking ass. So that's really what I appreciated.
I saw a lot that resonated with me. One thing that definitely I notice is, because I'm on the Provincetown Flats and there's a lot of people that come there walking around, they want to tell me what I'm doing, which I'm Irish, I don't really like that, just for the record. So people ask me like, oh, how are your Wellfleet oysters? And I'm like, I think the other thing that really kind of hit me was young people on the farm. I went to a farm conference a couple of years ago at the farm school in Norfolk County, and they talked a lot about bringing young people to the farm. And if you're not committed to bringing young people to your farm, you're not committed to sustainable and resilient food routes. And that stuck with me. So I started an intern program for my farm this year. We had a couple of young people coming from the College of William and Mary and learning about farming, tried to start a 4-H club. Doesn't look like there's any kids in Provincetown though, so I'm struggling to get some kids onto that. But I love the idea of bringing young people out to the farm and having them make their own food, figure out how that works. But there was a lot. I think there's a lot of people that, I think the thing that I mostly noticed was that there are a lot of people that will want to talk to the guy next to you. So whether it's, you know, the intern that I just brought out to the farm who knows really jack about what we're doing there yet, you know, the folks that walk out there want to talk to the men. But for many years I worked in hazardous waste, and people would always, even if I was wearing like an orange vest and a hard hat, people would always talk to the guy next to me, even if he was delivering lunch or something. They would say, oh, tell me more. So I'm not really that concerned with that. I think young people to the farm, bringing young people out to figure out how to make food is really important. That's the part that really sticks with me.
Part of many male-dominated industries, not just fishing. So besides finding gear that fits us, what is the single most significant barrier that you've personally overcome as a career as a fisherwoman? And what advice would you give to those young women who are trying to get into this field or this career? Besides finding waders that fit.
I don't want to set a tone, but I'm going to start it. Being bad luck on the boat and not being taken serious. And when I was younger, being part of a crew of men who I'm looking at, I just want to call out Sunedo out here. She's a kick-ass tuna fisherman. She's tiny as hell, and I don't know how she does it, but she does it. But just that idea of being physically, muscle mass is different in women, and having to give that 125% to just get to 90%, that maybe some of your counterparts are doing. I think overcoming that fear of getting hurt because or sabotaged on the boat because I was bad luck. This is way back a longer time than now. There would be zero tolerance in my life if that happened right now. But yeah, just proving yourself, I think, and knowing that you're capable and had the wherewithal to persevere and to work hard and to find where your magic fits in the whole bigger picture.
I do have a different take, and I do know that because Shareen and I are friends, and I do know that she experienced way more difficulties in this industry than I did. And I don't know if it's because I'm oblivious, because that might be the bottom line, because I really never heard the background. I didn't hear negativity, and maybe that's my personality, or maybe, like I said, I just turned it off. But I do know that I worked as hard as I possibly can, probably past limits that I could do, because I constantly felt I needed to prove it to myself that I was as good as that person. So it wasn't so much a competition with men around me. didn't hear it, I didn't live it, and I certainly didn't let it bother me. And was there another part to that question? I think that my door has always been open. Rachel and I actually worked together for many, many years, and so we were always the all-girl duo in the shellfish department in Chatham. So, you know, I'm surrounded by very capable and very adventurous women. And again, if anybody had questions, my doors have always been open, so.
Can I just add something about that?
Yeah.
Because I want to just say that I think I set an example for my daughters to come up through the industry and to work many capacities within the fishing industry. But currently, there's a woman that I work with at the co-op she's killing it. She walked in the door as hired to clean the seafood processing and has jumped into doing a lot of our processing and production, and I really feel, you know, that she reminds me of myself a little bit younger, but I really take her to heart and try to lead her and show her leadership and good judgment and things, so.
I think there's a lot of resources for young people to get into fishing and farming. Like I think the Cape Fishermen's Alliance recently had a program that I know my niece Vanessa Rose out of Wellfleet participated, where you learn how to be on a boat and safety and all that stuff. And I know that there's, again, the county has a lot of different resources. To be totally honest, I'm not, I didn't have a lot of barriers. Maybe because I started to do this much later in life. I had a ton of support, like I said, from the county, but I also had a lot of support from the state, like DMF and DPH, who are both involved in oyster farming, were very supportive, very helpful. And so I remember like in the 1980s being like dating a fisherman and hearing all that stuff, like about like ladies being bad luck on the boat or whatever, and I just kind of set that aside. Things were changing then and I didn't pay attention to it, but I also wasn't in fishing then, unless you call dating a fisherman being a fisherman. Not hooked. So, you know, I love that there's so many resources. I love that Massachusetts is so supportive for people to get involved in fishing and farming, and there's a ton of resources. So I think it's a brave new world.
That's great. I am not really on the water, but I wanted to say two things. I took my 9-year-old daughter to our first screening of this film, and she was the only little girl at the time, and it was late at night, so you know, I'm a bad mom. I watched her, and her eyes were just huge for almost every aspect of it. You know, Ella, the young lobsterman, she was like, "Oh, that's so cool." And then we get to the tuna fishers, and her eyes just literally popped out of her head. Her mouth dropped, and as soon as, you know, all the yammering was done and everything, and you got to go hang out with the women, she went straight to those two tuna fishermen and was just asking questions, and she wanted her poster signed. And I think part of this for me, part of why this is really special for me was for her, because I wanted her to really experience that, yeah, you know, put your money where your mouth is. You want to do it, go do it, and this is how you do it. And she's young enough she's drinking that Kool-Aid, and I love it. And she still has that poster up on her wall and so on. But unlike all of you, I am not on the water, but I am fisheries and aquaculture adjacent. And on the, you know, on sort of the academic aspect of things, I've struggled. I'm the only woman of color who's had my position in New Hampshire ever. And I've been doing it for a very long time, and I will say something, and some, you know, young guy who just started will say the exact same thing, and he's being listened to, and I am still not. And it is a struggle pretty much all the time. And then when I first started, and I was starting to work with our fishermen, my very first interaction with them was I was working with somebody else, and he said, can you just bring the snacks? And for over a year, I was snack girl, and I was a specialist. And so, so New Hampshire, again, is a little bit different, and but it did take a different way of thinking about how to make relationships with this very entrenched industry, right? Like, they know who they know and they trust who they trust. And if you're new and they don't know, oh, you're an academic and a snob, I'm not listening to you, just bring the snacks, was a very different way to approach this job. And so, like I said, for me, it's really relationships and going down and talking to them and getting to know them one-on-one and earning that trust. So I definitely hear what they said. It's like, you have to prove yourself and earn their respect. And saying what you're, doing what you say you're gonna do over and over again. And I still do that, and I've been doing this now like 14 years. So it's not quite as easy, but it's also been really fascinating and a lot of fun to be in this position as well. So from Sea Grantee perspective, right, I do believe that there has been research shown. Actually, Natalie Lord, who was also featured on there, she is looking at sort of demographics in this industry and so on. And she has published a paper that basically the way women in aquaculture are learning is through speaking with each other and supporting each other, and how, it's incredibly important to them. And when she was interviewing a lot of the women shellfish farmers up in Maine, almost all of them said, we didn't do this alone, we have this little sorority, etc. And then within Sea Grant, Rachel, all of us and Abigail, like we call each other up, we ask questions, and that support has been really across all 33 programs. I think there's at least one female agent that I connect to, and we bounce stuff off of each other. So I feel like that network is incredibly important.
Well, like I said, there's quite a few women. I know it's propositional. I'm more in the water than on the water, even though we have 4 boats. There's just a ton of women out there that are out there chatting and talking and educating and supporting each other here on Cape Cod. So, hearing what you're saying, I feel so lucky. I don't really have a ton to add to that because, I remember talking with Diane Murphy at the Marine Program 20 years ago about the dream of having an oyster farm, and definitely 20 years ago, Barnstable County had a female aquaculture agent that was there supporting. So this isn't really that new for me to experience it. I feel very supported as a lady in and on the water for the most part, and I don't really have a ton to add, sorry.
We didn't know what we were doing. I mean, we were sort of knew what we were doing, but running into trouble a few times coming out of the Clam Flats of Monomoy into Nantucket Sound when it's blowing southwest about 25 in a small skiff that wasn't working right. I mean, things like that. So you kind of bond very quickly with your friends. But I think some of the women camaraderie I felt was, before that, during Bay Scallop season in Chatham, it was basically pretty much a family thing. And so women were on the boat with their spouses or partners or whatnot. And so there was a lot of that sort of sense and community around the harvest, but also, about the hard work. And then that network sort of grew because there weren't a lot of women that were on the weirs. It was just either I was probably just the only women, and then a couple of people would jump on the boat once in a while. But the network of women grew in different women's organizations. Women's Fisheries Network was one that Renee and I were part of, and it was kind of a big deal. And then locally, I can't remember the name of it now, the Chatham Fishermen's Wives Coalition, Narrowed Network, WOOF, Women of Fishing Families that Shannon is part of now. All these are very important to the support around women that are working on the water, but also as families of fishing people. I've been 40 years or so doing every aspect I can think of. Probably not the, well, yeah, I have done science stuff on the boat, but advocacy, selling, cutting fish, packing fish, selling, cooking fish, writing about fish, photography, harvesting. I've got a vast experience behind me and a knowledge base that, I bring to what the work I'm doing now. And I'm hoping that, at the end of the day, that I can sort of, like with some of my coworkers, younger coworkers, is to give them that knowledge too, and other community members.
Shireen probably just stole all my thunder because I was going to comment about all of the different opportunities for women. Back in the 90s, it was Women's Fisheries Network, and it really, and I don't even know how I started, but I ended up being on the board of directors for that. But it was really from harvesters all the way to scientists. Stephanie's mom, that's where I used to pick her up and see little Stephanie. And so it really kind of opened your eyes to how vast this industry was, but also how many women were involved in it. And it was really a great opportunity for soundboarding, because there were a lot of stories about women in the industry that were being downplayed because they were women. And I remember those stories. So there have been women groups throughout these years that offer that support. And I've been a member of most of them. And like Shireen, I've had experience from, the whole gamut of this industry. And so there's a lot to contribute, certainly to the next generation. And I'll just end by saying, neither one of us ever had a decent working boat. We never had a new boat, and we never had a new motor. So one of us were always broken down.
All right, thank you. And I'll add to one of those other organizations. So when I got into this industry 20 years ago as a shellfish constable, there were two of us. I was in East Ham, and there was a propagation specialist in the town of Barnstable. And so we bonded because we were the only two women out there. And now I think we're at 60% females across the Cape and Islands, either in those constable roles or those propagation roles. So that network among the female regulatory agencies, the head of DMF Shellfish is a female. So that's just increased our network and our community in this industry.